Hi everyone, welcome back to another art lesson. As always, I hope everyone is doing well and keeping safe at home. First of all, I'd just like to say that I'm really impressed with the drawings that everyone's been submitting, so we'll have a little look at some of them first. Now, sorry I can't congratulate anyone or say your name on YouTube, but I've tried to include as many as possible. Now, I think what's most impressive about these is the fact that you can see everyone's been considering the 3D shape of the head. So that's what we always want to be doing with portraiture, right? You don't want to just look at the photo of your face and see it as flat. You want to think about all the 3D structure you can see. Now, some people also went a little bit further and drew full portraits, which was really cool as well. If anyone ever does have any additional art that they're doing at home, feel free to send it in and I'll include it in the video. Just make sure that you're also doing the normal task as well. So now that we've figured out the shape of the head, we want to start thinking about the actual features. So we'll start off with the one everyone wants to do, which is the eye. Now, where people often go wrong with the eye is, first of all, they start to draw them the wrong shape. You might hear that your eye is like a circle or like an almond shape, but just like the structure of the head, the shape of your eye can change drastically depending on how you're looking at it. Now, the other place that people go wrong is not including key features around the eye. So your eye isn't just your pupil or the white part of your eye, it's the eyelid, the socket, the brow, and your eyelashes as well. So yes, even if you're a guy, you still want to draw in your eyelashes, otherwise it's going to look a bit weird. So today we are learning to draw an eye from multiple angles. You will be successful if you can take a photo of your eye to work from. You then use your pencil to sketch out the main structures of the eye, add a layer of light tone to all the shadowed areas, and then add darker shadows to your darkest areas to create a range of tone in your drawing. Now that probably seems overly simple, and that's because it is. There are many different parts to the eye and things we have to consider, so we're going to go through it slowly and step by step. First of all, you want to take a photo of your eye. To make it easy for yourself later, try and get some shadows in your eye. If you have a flash or have a light that's straight on your eye, it's going to be more difficult for you later when you have to add detail. Because this is going to be a tonal drawing, it might also help you to edit your photo on your phone to make it black and white. The first part of the eye most people are drawn to is the pupil, but what we want to do first is start off with the biggest structures. It's always best to sketch in the main shapes you can see in a drawing before you go in to add detail. If you put in your detail too early, then there's a good chance it'll be wrong the first time and you're going to have to change it because you haven't considered what's around it. So the biggest part is the eye socket area. The eye socket is what your eye sits in, and it's above your cheekbone, at the side of your nose, and underneath your brow. The eye socket is the reason your eyes are often in shadow, and it makes up the structure of your eye. This is especially important if you're drawing from a Loomis head. If we go straight into the pupil, there's a good chance that it's going to be in the wrong spot. But if we draw the socket first, it gives us a frame for the rest of it. The next biggest section is going to be the lids and everything in it. Again, we are wanting to draw the larger parts of the eye first. Now at first when you're drawing these, you want the shape to be roughly correct. I usually use a few straight lines at first because I'll go in and fix them later. Now your eye is actually a sphere that sits inside your head and the lids come over and protect it. But rather than being really thin, they actually have a little bit of thickness to them, and you want to show that. And the more to one side your eye is, the more this thickness is going to stand out. Eyelids are also particular to different people, so some might have a heavier top or bottom lid. Next, we want to draw the sclera. The sclera is the combination of the iris, the pupil, and the cornea that all makes one shape. Now what we don't want to do is draw it as an almond or a fish shape, which some people can sometimes use for the eye. Although this shape is close, it's an oversimplification of the range of shapes that your eye can be. Depending on where you look at your eye, these shapes will change significantly. But for this starting sketch, the top part can be drawn in 3 simple lines and the bottom with 2. Now a mistake that most people make is their eyes are way too big. This is an easy mistake because the eyes are what we focus on when we look at someone. But if you do this, it can end up looking a bit cartoony and unnatural. And lastly, for the structure of the drawing, we want to add the iris and the pupil. Make sure when you're drawing the pupil that you don't just draw a circle on your eyes. Unless you're looking scared or shocked, your eyelids are going to be covering some of your iris. And most of the time, unless you're looking down, it's going to be some of the top half. Then you want to add your pupil. Your pupil is what allows light into your eye. So if you've taken the photo with a flash or if it's quite bright, you're probably going to have a pupil that's quite small because it's not letting much light in. If it's darker, your pupil's going to be larger. You also want to add some thickness to your eyebrow. For now, it's just going to probably look like a little slug until we add in some shadows. And make sure the distance from your eyebrow to your top lid is correct. Again, this is going to be different for different people depending on how low your brow is. Now we have the basic structure of the eye, and it does look quite basic. Why is this? It's because any feature of the face isn't going to look accurate unless we add shadows, as this tells us the actual 3D shape of it. First of all, I'm going to study my image closely, and using the same pressure or the same tonal value, I'm going to fill in all areas of shadow. Because all of your shadows are the same at first, it's going to look quite graphic-like. It should at this point just look like there are two values of tone, so white for the highlight and then one light tone for all the shadows. Don't apply too much pressure with your pencil as you're still going to want to go darker later on. This is just a light shadow to start. Remember, the more layers of tone you build up, the smoother your shadows are going to be. One of the mistakes people make here is leaving the white of your eye completely white. Now remember, your eye is a sphere inside your socket, which means a part of it is probably going to be in shadow. Once you've done this, you then want to add a second layer of darker shadow, this time focusing on all the darker parts. You'll typically find these darker parts in deep creases of the face, like around the eyelids, as well as areas that are just naturally darker, like the pupil or the hair on your eyebrow. Now that we have a few tonal values, it's starting to look realistic. From here, it's a case of studying your image as closely as possible and continuing to add small tonal details. Remember to draw what you can see, not what you think you can see. And for your eyelashes and eyebrows, you don't just want to draw little individual hairs. For example, this area where the lashes are is a little in shadow and it's also naturally dark. So rather than draw a lot of individual hairs, I'll fill it in with shadow, and then I'll just add the few individual hairs that stand out. Try not to see your drawing as individual parts. You're just looking at it as a tonal image. There are some bits that are darker and there are some bits that are lighter, and you want to show that in your drawing as accurately as possible. And make sure to keep your highlights bright. Remember, it's the contrast between light and dark that make the eye look 3D. And now I have a finished eye. Now, depending on the angle you've chosen, the shape of your eye will change a lot, but your method of drawing should always stay the same. Now, I understand that drawing an eye can feel really intimidating. Just remember to take your time, follow the instructions, and make sure, most importantly, to study the source. So remember, it's not going to look perfect the first time. You're bound to make a mistake at some point. So if you see a mistake, that's fine. Just make sure to change it and fix it. If you see there's a problem, that's actually a good thing, because that means you know how it should look. It's actually worse if there's a mistake and then you don't see it and you don't fix it. Now, I understand that drawing an eye can feel really intimidating. Just remember to take your time, follow the instructions, and make sure, most importantly, to study the source. So remember, it's not going to look perfect the first time. You're bound to make a mistake at some point. So if you see a mistake, that's fine. Just make sure to change it and fix it. If you see there's a problem, that's actually a good thing, because that means you know how it should look. It's actually worse if there's a mistake and then you don't see it and you don't fix it. Now, you'll see on Teams that we're doing the check-in slightly differently this week, so what I've done is set up an individual check-in for each class, and that would be when you normally come to R. So you don't need to attend every check-in, remember, they're just there if you have any questions about the task, but feel free to message me as well, and make sure to just attend the meeting that's for your class only. And again, it's been really great seeing so many submissions from everyone. If you can just make sure to submit it on the assignment. Some people have been emailing, and if that's all you can do, then that's fine. Or some people have just been messaging on the chat, but try and go on to the assignment that I've set and actually submit your photos there, because that makes it a little bit easier for me to keep track of them all. There is a guide of how to upload to Teams if you go in the Files section of the S2 team. I'm really excited to see how these turn out. Just remember to look out for the check-in lessons, but again, you can message at any time if you need any help. Can't wait to see all your work, and I'll see you next time.